If I had known what was waiting for me that night, I would have never walked through that door. Los Angeles was colder than I expected that winter. I always imagined it as a city of eternal sunshine, where dreams came true and money flowed like champagne. But in reality, the nights were unforgiving, the wind bit through my thin coat, and the streets had a way of swallowing you whole if you weren't careful. I wasn't supposed to be here, not like this. I came from a good family, a normal life. My parents were both highly educated, respected in their fields. They taught me values, pushed me toward college, expected me to follow the path they had so carefully laid out for me. But none of that prepared me for the real world, the world where money ruled everything. I had seen it online, the glamorous lives of girls who seemingly had it all. Expensive cars, designer bags, luxury vacations. They were my age, yet they lived like celebrities. And the way they talked about their lives, how easy it all seemed, made me believe I could have the same. So I made a choice. I told myself I was in control, that this was just a way to fast-track my success. I started small. Fancy dinner dates with wealthy men who just wanted someone pretty on their arm. Nothing more. It was just money for my time, I told myself. Then, slowly, things escalated. The money was too good, and the lifestyle was addictive. Soon, I found myself accepting offers that made my stomach turn, but I ignored the warning signs. I convinced myself that I was still in control. Until that night, I got the call from an exclusive client, a man who paid double the usual rate. His assistant handled everything, setting up the meeting at a private penthouse. When I arrived, everything seemed normal. The room was elegant, dimly lit, and warm despite the cold outside. He was already waiting for me, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his face unreadable. Amelia, he greeted me, his voice smooth, practiced. I smiled, pretending to be at ease. Nice to meet you. He gestured toward the bedroom. Let's not waste time. That was the first moment I felt it, the unease creeping up my spine. But I had learned to suppress my instincts, to ignore the voice in my head that told me something was wrong. I stepped inside. The room was dark, except for the city lights filtering through the massive windows. I barely had time to process my surroundings before he pulled out something from his pocket, silk restraints. A nervous laugh escaped me. I don't really do that. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You do tonight. My heart pounded as I hesitated, but he was already moving, already closing the space between us. You agreed to this, he said, his voice calm, controlled. I didn't remember agreeing to anything like this. But before I could protest, he was tying my wrists to the bedposts. A chill ran down my spine. I think there's been a misunderstanding. But he didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the window and opened it, letting the freezing air rush in. Then, without a word, he left the room. I struggled against the restraints, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The cold seeped into my bones almost instantly. My dress was thin, offering no protection against the icy wind. Minutes passed, then more. My fingers went numb, my body trembling uncontrollably. Where was he? I wanted to scream, but something inside me told me not to. I was completely at his mercy, and I had no idea what he would do if I made a scene. Time blurred. My thoughts became sluggish. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the door creaked open. He walked back in, his expression unchanged. He glanced at me, as if inspecting his work, then sat down on the edge of the bed. Cold? He asked, almost amused. I didn't answer. Good, he murmured. Now, be quiet. And that was the moment I realized, this wasn't about pleasure. This wasn't about money. This was about power. I couldn't move. Even after he untied my wrists, my body refused to respond. The cold had seeped so deep into my bones that I wasn't sure if I'd ever feel warm again. My fingers were stiff, my shoulders ached, and my skin burned where the silk restraints had been. He stood up, adjusting his suit as if nothing had happened, his expression unreadable. The bathroom is down the hall. Clean yourself up before you go, he said, his voice completely devoid of emotion. I sat up slowly, my body trembling, not just from the cold but from something deeper, something I couldn't name. I wanted to say something, to demand an explanation, to ask why he did what he did. But the words never came. He walked over to a sleek black wallet on the nightstand, pulled out a thick stack of cash, and placed it neatly beside me. Then, as if it was just another transaction, he added another few bills on top. A bonus. For being obedient, he said, giving me a small, almost amused smile before turning away. The sound of his footsteps faded as he left the room. I was alone now, free to leave. And yet, I just sat there, staring at the money. It felt dirty. Not because of what had happened. I'd told myself 1,000 times that I was in control of my choices. I wasn't a victim. No one forced me into this. But this was something different. I had walked into that penthouse thinking I understood the rules of this world. I had believed that money made it fair, that as long as I agreed to the terms, I couldn't be hurt. But now, I wasn't sure. The cold still clung to me, wrapping around my ribs like a phantom grip. I pressed my hands against my face, trying to ground myself, trying to shake off the feeling that I had just been turned into something less than human. I forced myself to move. My legs were unsteady as I climbed off the bed. I took a deep breath and walked toward the bathroom. Inside, I turned on the faucet, letting the water run until steam rose from the sink. My reflection in the mirror startled me. My makeup was smudged, my skin pale. My eyes looked hollow. I pressed my hands against the cold porcelain of the sink, willing myself to pull it together. I needed to leave. I washed my face, scrubbing at the remnants of mascara and lipstick. The warm water helped, but it couldn't wash away the feeling that something inside me had shifted. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to chase away the lingering chill. This was just another night. Just another client. Just another job. That's what I kept telling myself. But deep down, I knew I was lying. When I stepped back into the bedroom, the money was still there, waiting. I hesitated. It was the most I had ever been paid for a single night. A part of me screamed to take it, to not let this experience be for nothing. After all, wasn't that the whole point? Wasn't this why I did it? But another part of me, one that I had been ignoring for months, felt sick at the thought. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. Take it, Amelia. Just take it and go. I picked up the cash, my hands shaking, and shoved it into my purse. My stomach twisted, but I ignored it. I needed to get out of there. I grabbed my coat and headed toward the door. My heels clicked softly against the hardwood floor, the sound unnervingly loud in the silence. I reached for the doorknob, but before I could turn it, his voice stopped me. Amelia. I froze. He was standing near the window, his back to me, his hands in his pockets. The wind from the open window ruffled the curtains. Be careful, he said. Not every client will be as generous as I am. I swallowed hard. I didn't say anything, just turned the knob and stepped out into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind me. The elevator ride down felt like it lasted an eternity. The mirrored walls reflected a version of myself I didn't recognize. When the doors finally opened, I stepped out into the lobby. The warmth of the building should have been comforting, but it wasn't. Outside, the cold night air bit at my skin. I pulled my coat tighter around me and started walking, my heels clicking against the pavement. I needed to get home. I needed to forget this night ever happened. But I knew I wouldn't. Even as I walked toward the waiting rideshare, even as I slid into the back seat and gave the driver my address, I could still feel the lingering ghost of his hands, the suffocating silence of that room, the way my body had gone numb. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow, I would figure out what to do next. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't the life I thought it would be, and I wasn't sure I could keep pretending that it was. I should have walked away that night. I should have listened to that voice inside me, the one screaming that something was wrong. But I didn't. And now, a week later, I was staring at the news, my stomach twisted in knots. A week had passed since that night. A week in which I tried to convince myself that everything was okay. I pretended that nothing had happened, took new orders, earned money. I ignored the fear that had crept deep inside me, ignored the way my fingers trembled as I counted the cash. But everything changed in an instant. I was scanning the news when my gaze caught on a headline. Young woman found dead in elite Los Angeles hotel. Killer not found. My heart sank. I opened the article, scrolling through the text with trembling fingers. There were few details. The name was not released, but the age matched, early 20s. She was found in a hotel room this morning when the maid came to clean. No sign of forced entry. No witnesses. But I already knew what would chill me the most. I saw the address. It was the same hotel. The same one. My body froze. An icy wave ran down my spine. This couldn't be a coincidence. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard the messages start coming into my phone. Have you heard yet? It was Vanessa. She was found this morning. In the same place you were a week ago. No cameras, no leads. Just gone. I clutched the phone in my hand, trying to catch my breath. Vanessa. I knew her. Not closely, but I knew her. We crossed paths a couple of times, laughed over a glass of wine, discussed clients. She always seemed confident, said that she did it for the high life, that one day she would open her own business and forget about escorting. And now she was dead. I closed my eyes, but immediately saw myself in that room. I remembered how he looked at me. I remembered how he silenced me. I remembered his words before I left. Be careful. Not all clients will be as generous as me. Generous? I felt fear boiling inside me, mixed with rage. It was him. I knew it. But what should I do? Go to the police? Say I had a bad feeling? That this man also locked me in that room and left me to freeze? I had no proof. Just a feeling that I, too, might not have left that room. I looked up at the mirror. There was a girl there, her face pale, her eyes wide open in horror. A girl who knew she had only two options, either continue to pretend that nothing had happened, or fight for her life before it was too late. I had to decide before I became next. I didn't want to be another girl whose name ended up on the news. Another girl who got swallowed by this world and forgotten. I had to do something. And I had to do it fast. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept spinning, replaying everything over and over again. The way he had tied me up, the way he had left me there, freezing. The way he had told me to be careful. And now Vanessa was dead. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending it was just a coincidence. I knew it was him. But what could I do? Going to the police wouldn't help. I had no proof. No cameras. No witnesses. Just a gut feeling and a deep, bone-chilling fear. But I wasn't going to wait around for him to come for me next. I grabbed my phone and dialed the only person I thought could help, Maya. Maya wasn't just another escort. She had been in the business for years, knew all the secrets, all the dangers. If there was anyone who could tell me what to do, it was her. She picked up on the third ring. Amelia? What's wrong? Her voice was groggy, but I didn't care. It's him, Maya. The guy from last week. The one who did that to me. My voice was shaking. I think he killed Vanessa. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. Where are you? My place. I'm coming over. Maya showed up an hour later, her face pale, her lips pressed into a tight line. She sat across from me, listening as I told her everything. When I was done, she sighed and ran a hand through her dark hair. I've heard of guys like him before, she murmured. They pick girls who they think won't be missed. Escorts, runaways, girls with no family to ask questions. She met my eyes. But you? You have family, Amelia. You have a whole life outside of this. He made a mistake with you. I swallowed hard. So what do? Maya leaned forward. You disappear. My stomach twisted. What? You quit. Tonight? You delete your accounts, change your number. You stop answering calls. You walk away before he realizes that you're still a loose end. I stared at her. And then what? Just live in fear for the rest of my life. She exhaled sharply. It's that or risk ending up like Vanessa. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I hated this. I hated feeling powerless. But she was right. I couldn't fight a man like him. Not alone. So I made my choice. I quit. I spent the next few hours deleting everything. My client list. My online profiles. even my old texts. When I was done, I felt empty. This life had given me so much money, power, a taste of luxury. But it had also nearly killed me. And if I didn't walk away now, it would. I packed a bag with the essentials and booked a last-minute flight to New York. I needed to be far away from here. Before I left, I wrote a letter to my parents. I told them I was taking a break from everything, that I needed time to figure out my life. I didn't tell them the truth. I couldn't. But as I stood outside my apartment, one last question nagged at me. The money. The money he had given me that night. The extra cash he had left on the table like a reward. It was still sitting in my dresser. I walked back inside, opened the drawer, and stared at the neatly stacked bills. It was more than I had made in months. It could have paid for a fresh start, but it was dirty. It was his, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I grabbed the money, walked outside, and threw it into the nearest dumpster. Then I got in my car and drove to the airport. As my plane took off, I looked out at the city below. The lights of Los Angeles stretched out like veins, glowing in the night. I had loved the city once. I had thought it was my future. But now it was just the place I survived. And I wasn't coming back.